In 2004, researchers went to sugarcane farmers in India and gave them the same cognitive test twice, once right before harvest when they were broke, and once right after harvest when the exact same farmers had money in hand. Same person, same brain, same intelligence, but their test scores changed dramatically depending on whether they were financially stressed or not. A gap large enough to be compared to losing an entire night of sleep or roughly 13 IQ points. Nothing about their intelligence changed. Something else did. And that something explains one of the most misunderstood patterns in personal finance. Why being broke doesn't just feel bad. It makes you measurably worse at getting unbroke. This comes from behavioral economist Senthil Mullainathan and psychologist Eldar Shafir, whose research reframed how we understand poverty and decision-making. Their central finding, scarcity isn't just a material condition, it's a cognitive state that changes how the mind works. They introduced a concept called cognitive bandwidth, the total mental resources available for thinking, problem-solving, self-control, and planning. And scarcity, of money specifically, imposes what they call a bandwidth tax. This bandwidth tax occupies cognitive resources with the immediate scarcity problem, leaving less available for everything else. Not because of weak character, because the mind is a finite resource, and financial stress is expensive to think about. Here's where it gets important. This explains why people make worse financial decisions when they're poor, not because of character flaws or lack of willpower, but because financial stress itself reduces the cognitive resources required for good financial decision-making. Flip that around, and it's a radical statement. The bad decisions often blamed on poor financial character aren't the cause of poverty. In many cases, they're a downstream symptom of it. The system is, in a sense, cognitively taxing the exact people who most need those cognitive resources. As Mullainathan put it plainly in his research on this, poverty, no matter who you are, can make you dumber. Not permanently, not biologically, situationally. Let's go back to that farmer study, because the design is what makes it so convincing. Sugarcane farmers in India get paid once a year, at harvest. That means the exact same people experience genuine poverty for months, then relative financial comfort right after harvest, same income annually, just distributed unevenly across the calendar. Researchers tested these farmers on cognitive tasks at both points. The bandwidth of the farmers was restored as soon as crop payments were received. Same brain, same person, same skills. The only variable that changed was whether money was scarce at that moment. This is a crucial detail. The shortfall isn't the standard kind caused by lack of nutrition or childhood stress hindering brain development. It's the present-day cognitive load of making ends meet. When income rises, cognitive capacity rises with it. Scarcity doesn't just drain bandwidth, it also narrows focus, and this part is genuinely double-edged. This scarcity mindset brings some benefits. It concentrates the mind on pressing needs, and gives people a keener sense of the value of a dollar, a minute, or a calorie. Research has even found that people experiencing financial scarcity tend to have a sharper grasp of costs than people who aren't, but the same mechanism that sharpens focus on the immediate problem creates a dangerous side effect. This scarcity mindset shortens a person's horizons and narrows perspective, creating a dangerous tunnel vision. You get better at handling the emergency directly in front of you, and worse at planning for anything outside that tunnel. A bill 3 weeks out, a decision with only long-term payoff, a maintenance task with no immediate consequence. That's why, under financial scarcity, people are more likely to miss things like renewing a registration or scheduling a checkup, not from carelessness, but because attention is entirely consumed by whatever feels most urgent right now. Here's the part that makes this genuinely cruel as a system. Scarcity's effect on the mind tends to produce decisions that create more scarcity. By making people slower-witted and weaker-willed in the moment, scarcity creates a mindset that perpetuates scarcity itself. Reduced bandwidth makes people more likely to sacrifice future rewards for short-term needs, procrastinate on important tasks, and avoid dealing with problems that require sustained mental effort. None of that is a moral failing. It's a predictable output of a mind running low on the exact resource, mental bandwidth, needed to escape the situation in the first place. This is also why the same research shows scarcity of time, food, or even loneliness produces strikingly similar cognitive effects to scarcity of money. Different forms of scarcity share common mechanisms, all converging on the same tax against mental bandwidth. It's not about money specifically. It's about what happens to any mind that doesn't have enough of something it needs. If you've ever felt foggy, reactive, or unable to think clearly about money specifically while broke, that's not a personal defect. That's the bandwidth tax, and it's well documented. Two things follow from that. First, stop making irreversible, high-stakes decisions during your highest-stress financial moments if you can avoid it. That's exactly when bandwidth is lowest and tunnel vision is highest. Delay what you can. Second, reduce the number of financial decisions you have to actively think about, because every decision spends bandwidth you don't have surplus of right now. Automate whatever payments and savings you can, even small amounts, so your depleted bandwidth isn't the thing standing between you and a missed bill or a late fee. Mullainathan and Shafir's own recommendation for organizations is telling: build in reminders and structural supports for people under scarcity, rather than assuming willpower alone should carry the load. That advice works just as well applied to yourself. This research also reframes a very common judgment: the idea that poor decision-making causes poverty, full stop. The bandwidth tax research suggests the arrow often points the other way too. Scarcity produces the very cognitive conditions that make escaping scarcity harder. That doesn't remove personal responsibility from the picture. It does mean the harshest self-blame, I should just think more clearly about money, is fighting against a real, measurable cognitive constraint, not just a lack of discipline. Same farmers, same brains, a measurable cognitive gap just from the timing of a paycheck. If nothing else, let that change how you judge financial decisions, your own or anyone else's. Subscribe for next week's breakdown of another research-backed money pattern most people never learn to see. Comment below. Has money stress ever made you feel like you couldn't think straight? I read, everyone.